Hello, and welcome to my first official productivity report. This is for October 2023. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Caroline. I'm an organizing and productivity pro, and this is something I've been thinking about doing for quite a long time. I have for years and years watched some of my content creating colleagues create different income reports based on their current month in business, and I thought it would be really fun to do something like that for myself. But since I am a productivity coach, I thought, well, wouldn't it be more fun to, instead of look at finances, look at productivity, goal setting? How am I doing on my goals? How can we improve your goals? And maybe you'll learn something from this. Maybe you'll get some sort of takeaway from it. It's also a really nice way for myself to be accountable. So I just thought it'd be a good idea. So here goes. We're going to try this. And this is the first time, so, we'll see what happens. But I have my notes here, and I'm going to walk you through what happened in October 2023 for me, some of the goals that I've set for myself, how I'm doing on those, and what's to come. So without further ado, let's get into it. So going into October, there were three big words that came to mind. The first one was growth, the second was transparency, and the third was authenticity. And this year has been very transformative in all of those three areas for me as a business owner. And that's why I'm so excited to finally be doing this productivity report. I just think it's going to change so much for me. I decided to actually do this in January of this year, but I took this year to think about how I wanted to go about it and to set up the systems around it so that I will be able to maintain it going forward. And the goal is now to put out one of these reports every single month in blog format as well as on YouTube. So that I'll be accountable and you get to follow along on the journey and to see how I do things, right? It can be really fun to get a behind the scenes look at somebody's business and how they do things. And one of the bigger things that I've committed to doing is to learn from my mistakes. Always. I like to fail forward, which I discussed with my friend Andrea. And that means that you always reflect on what you're learning, and that way you sort of don't repeat mistakes going forward. And that's actually a big part of my CEO routine. So for those of you who don't know, I have a course that I teach, a program for entrepreneurs called Mindful Monday Mapping. And basically I teach how to create a shorter work week for yourself. And one of the ways in which we implement that is by having a really strong CEO routine for every single Monday. And so that's a big part of my process, and it has been for years and years, and it's really been transformational for me. That's how I've been able to grow my business so quickly. And so putting these reports out is going to be a lot more transparent that way, and not only let me track what I'm doing, but it's going to let me showcase what I've learned in the process so that you also can then learn from those mistakes. So that to me is transparent, and hopefully it'll be as authentic as possible. Obviously, I want that to come across. I am a very authentic person, at least I believe so. And so just to have that continuous growth, I feel like it's time that I put myself out there more. So that's what we're doing. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's something that needs to happen at some point. So yeah. I think as I reflect on my last decade in business, one of the things that I regret is not being transparent enough. And that's part of this, whole journey. I haven't really shown people what's been going on behind the scenes. And if I'm going to be completely honest and fair, I haven't really shown a lot on the front either. I've kept my head down. I've sort of had my clients, I've worked on projects, and I haven't really talked about any of it. It's sort of been day to day, just been going on and on and on. And I haven't really reflected in public on any of it. I've learned a lot on the back end, obviously, but I haven't shown anybody that. And people haven't seen what I've been doing. So I've worked on some major projects, major projects, but I never told anybody, so nobody knew that, right? I've had some great collaborations, but we really haven't discussed them or promoted them all that much. So again, they weren't really in the forefront as much as I would have wanted them to. And I haven't really shared any of my takeaways either with the outside world. So I think transparency is going to be a big part for my next decade in business, and this is what's going to kick off all of that. So even if this video isn't perfect, as I'm figuring out things as I go, at least I'm making the effort of trying to keep you updated and bring you into my world. So I hope that you appreciate that. Transparency was for sure one of the big aha moments I had. I do quarterly planning, and in Q4 of 2022, that was the big thing that came up. It's like, oh, that was my aha moment. Like, I need to show more people how I do things, why I do it that way, and what's working. That's really what marketing is all about, right? Is to create that connection. And I don't think I've done that well enough. And you live and you learn, right? But this is me actually trying to build a lot more of an authentic, transparent brand. And it's very exciting to do that. It's not easy to let people in, right? You have to be ready for it. And I don't think I was in the past, but I am now. So that's why this is so fun. Yeah, I think this is sort of what I've been working towards for the past decade. And it's finally time to sort of put myself out there a little bit more, talk about more of my projects, and I hope you enjoy it. So let's jump right in and talk about October 2023. This was my first full month sort of back in office, back into the normal regular routine, because I had spent the 5 or so previous months backpacking through Europe, which was super, super fun. We did it May through September. And it was just amazing, but also a little bit fatiguing. And obviously I didn't have my normal routine because I was moving through so many different places. I actually posted a recap on TikTok. If you are interested in hearing more about that trip, you can check me out there. So May through September, we went to Portugal, Spain, France, Monaco, Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, Denmark, Sweden. Yeah, lots and lots of places, close to, I want to say 25 or so Airbnbs. And we did great. We stayed on budget. Everything was fine. But yeah, I didn't really work all that much. I wanted to be really present for my daughter's benefit. So I did sort of the bare minimum on everything that I had to maintain, and that was the goal. And it worked out really nicely. I worked a few hours per week, and my systems basically did the rest. So I sell online courses, right, which is the majority income of my business. And then I have some coaching calls. So a couple coaching calls here and there, but the majority of the things I had to do was sort of maintain my online course communities. And that was fine. The big thing that I think that I noticed is that I actually had too much time off. And that might sound like a really weird problem, but when you're a very driven entrepreneur and you love what you do, it kind of makes you feel less anchored, I missed it. I missed work. And I noticed that when I got back home, that I had this surge of new energy come through. And I was very productive when I was working. I was re-energized, motivated, and all of that. But I think I took on a little bit too much because of that. So halfway through the month, I kind of noticed that, I'm stretching myself a little thinner than I'm used to. And that kind of shook me a little bit. Because I haven't been overcommitted in a very long time. I've worked very, very hard at establishing a very spacious schedule. This is what I do, obviously. So I've worked hard at being good at it, and I am good at it now. And I have a lot of time prioritized for things other than work. And I noticed halfway through October that, I'm a little bit too busy compared to normal months. Normal months is a weird term since I had 5 normal months, irregular months prior, but you know what I mean. I've just worked really hard to have a spacious and a balanced calendar, so it was a little weird to feel overcommitted. I hadn't felt that in a very long time. And I also realized that I took on some extra client projects just because I had missed work so much. But I actually, even though I love my clients and they're amazing and I love working on their projects, I actually love working on my projects even more. It's just what I love. And so I have come to the conclusion that no, content creation is really where my heart is. That's where I belong. I love to write. I love to make videos. I love to work on my marketing and my projects. And so it's really something that I need to prioritize all the time and not take on so many client projects. So that's a big aha moment, a big takeaway for me. Writing is a very big part of how I express myself. So I need to make time for that and make sure that I get all of that stuff out. It was actually a good month in that I hadn't been busy at all for the past 5 months. And then all of a sudden it got a little bit too much. And then now I'm striking that balance again. So that was how I felt sort of in October of this year. And it was a nice sort of wake up call, like, oh no, I need to prioritize content creation. All right, let's now talk about how many business projects I completed and why and how. So in October, I completed 7 projects. 2 of them were for private clients and 5 of them were for my business in general. And I've set a goal for this year to complete 3 per month. So I just crushed that completely. I nailed it. I did more than double, which means that I was really, really productive. And that was amazing to feel like that. Most months I have a few different projects at different stages, but I'm really, really good at closing out projects efficiently. And so obviously that's my specialty again. But I also don't want to, again, overcommit. So I find that 3 is a really good round number to keep things moving forward, but still not, have too much on my plate. You have to remember that a project is something that you do, right, to improve your current systems or to set up a new system. And so you still have to maintain everything else while you're doing these new projects, so I can't just completely drop the ball on marketing and on maintaining my courses and coaching my clients and all of those other things. Those things still have to happen in addition to these new projects. So I just find that 3 is a really good round number per month to close out, and that keeps things just moving. It keeps everything really nicely updated. So that's kind of what I've settled on. And I like having smaller projects with narrower scopes so that I can close them out more thoroughly and more efficiently. It's just a lot more, I don't know what the word is, motivating? Yeah, it's more energizing, I guess, to close out smaller projects faster because you really feel that momentum. Rather than to have something drag on for months and months and months and you don't feel like it's moving as fast, right? So I always like to break things down and I avoid large multi-layered projects. I tend to go with smaller, shorter ones so that I can just close them out efficiently and keep moving on to a new one. That really gets my motivation going, and it's kind of nice to be able to check them off. And yeah, like I said, you have to understand, right, that in productivity and in systems and operations, you have to also maintain everything else that you have on your plate that's already up and running. So again, I can't just forget about my coaching clients or my course students, right? I have to still meet my commitments to them. So in my courses, I always talk about that you have to spend about 80% of your time maintaining your current systems and about 20% of your time or so setting up new projects or working on new things. And a lot of people sort of, when I say, they go, "Oh, what do you mean? Don't you mean the other way around?" No. And that's where a lot of people go wrong, right? They focus on the shiny new things and then they don't maintain all those recurring tasks that they have to do. And when you make that switch, that's when your systems kick in and you actually free up a lot of your time. I wrote a blog post on that. I'll link to it below so that you can read that. In order to be consistent with marketing and all the other areas that you have to maintain, you have to put in the time for it, and that's where you should be spending your time. If you don't have a system, then that's the first thing you need, but when you do, you should be able to just maintain it. So yeah, we have to flip the script on that, and because that's what I do, I'm able to then have a lot more of a spacious schedule, and I'm able to feel more confident then in how I spend my time and how I prioritize. When you have a really clear and accurate view of everything that's going on and all the systems that's up and running in your business, then it's just easier to course correct and feel confident in how you prioritize your time. So I would say that 7 business projects closed in October is a massive success. 3 was the goal, so obviously I'm more than double that, which was really, really nice. My absolute favorite project out of all the ones I completed was to set up the systems for this productivity report. So I did that in Notion, which is my digital information hub. And I obviously did that so that I'll be able to consistently put these out, in the coming months. I'm really, really looking forward to this. And it was so much fun and it gave me such good ROI on my time investment. And I think that one of the reasons I'm so excited is because as I was writing this report, it became clear what my content strategy should be. So it kind of naturally unfolded, and I'm now super clear on that. And I'm looking forward to putting these out month after month and just letting it sort of grow organically. So I set that up in Notion, and I put my workflows in, my SOPs in, my recurring tasks, all the formatting for WordPress, and all of the information for the show notes and YouTube and all of that, right? All of that put together in one place so that I can easily access it from now on and just keep this running. So that was by far the most fun. Obviously, I love setting up systems and operations. That's who I am. But yeah, if you head down and click on the blog post, you can get a little sneak peek of what that looks like. Let's also talk about the number of hours I worked. So the goal I've set for 2023 is to work about 30 hours per week. And next year, that'll probably be about 20 hours or so, but it wasn't appropriate to have that goal this year because I launched an entire new product suite. I have 3 new programs that I set up. And along with that, obviously, came setting up the systems with it as well. And if you're in content creation at all, you know just how long that takes to launch something. I launched 3 big, huge programs that were successful. And so I knew that I needed to put in a little bit more time than I normally do. 30 hours isn't all that much, a normal work week is more like 40, right? But I still want to keep my spacious calendar. And I just thought 30 would be a nice sort of compromise for this year. And also, because of my travel schedule this year, I also knew that work wouldn't be spread out as evenly as it is in a normal year if I don't travel as much. 5 months on the road means less travel during that time, but maybe it's a little heavier up front during the first part of the year and maybe also during the latter part of the year. And that's kind of what's happening. I've seen that. So some weeks I worked more, some I worked less, and some not at all, right? So overall, 30 hours was a good number to shoot for. And actually during October, I worked a total of 80 hours and 45 minutes, which if you spread it out over 4 weeks It was about 20 hours a week. So I actually came in way under target for this month. And that surprised me because it didn't feel like 20 hours. It felt heavier. And I think that's because I took on those extra client projects. That's for sure what did me in on that. I don't think I spent a ridiculous amount of time on them, obviously, on those projects, but it did distract me and take me out of my normal sort of routine for how I do things. And that was kind of enough of a red flag for me. It was like the universe kicking me and saying like, no, that's not what you should be doing. And again, if you hop on over to my blog post, I have a little graphic of how much time I spent doing different things. It's like a percentage breakdown. And it's just kind of fun to reflect on how you spend your time and where it ended up going. So I could see that, when I broke down my October hours, those two projects dominated my time. And that's why I felt distracted. So, it just goes to show that it's not always just your time that you have to keep track of. Is also like, your energy, what's pulling your attention, like it's all of those things combined. And even though I love client projects, it just wasn't as energizing as my own stuff, right? I'm just looking at my percentages here, and those two extra projects that I took up, they were about 15 and 13.5% of my time, respectively. And that's time that I usually spend elsewhere. So you can kind of see and hear there why I was distracted. That's almost 30% going someplace else that I'm normally in charge of better. So yeah, besides that, I had admin work, customer service work, and marketing work for about 12.5% each, and that's kind of normal. So that's exactly as it should be. But yeah, for sure, I have to keep an eye on how much client work I take on, for sure. Something else that was fun that happened this month was that I received my 10-year Golden Circle designation from NAPO. NAPO, for those of you who don't know, is the National Association of Organizing and Productivity Professionals in the US. And it's basically, just a recognition for members who have attained a high level of expertise. They've been around for a long time, and they've been in business successfully for a long time. And, they contribute to the advancement of the industry and all of that good stuff. So I was really, really proud of that. NAPO has been a wonderful part of my journey as a professional organizer. So, if you're somebody who's thinking about starting in that profession, I would highly recommend you head over and join NAPO and check out. They have a lot of local chapters. So I am a part of NAPO Chicago, which is the Chicagoland area, and as well as the National Association. So there's a lot of big chapters around the US, and I believe there's also virtual chapters. So if you're elsewhere, I know we have a lot of members in Brazil and other countries as well. So yeah, it's definitely a great resource if you're thinking about getting into the organizing and productivity industry. So yeah, 10 years of Golden Circle membership now in NAPO. I look forward to the next 10 years. It's been a great ride so far. I've learned a lot, and it's just a wonderful resource all around. And if you're, looking for a professional organizer, that's a place that you can go to find a pro as well. If you go to napo.net, you can find an organizer in your area if you need help. All right, and on that note, I want to mention that I am also a certified photo organizer. I bet you didn't know that was a thing. A lot of people don't know, but I am a member of the photo managers again, and a similar group of people. We are a wonderful sort of community of organizers who are very good at digital organizing and organizing photos. So digital asset management specialists and photo organizers, and those of us who care about memories tend to belong to that group as well. So I deal with a lot of photos and memorabilia. I have helped people with that now for over a decade. And I find that, a lot of digital clutter, people don't care about. The photos people care about. So, that's one of my fields of expertise is how to deal with the digital photos. They're everywhere nowadays, from this phone to that phone, to cloud storage hubs, to, everywhere else, right? And, it can be really hard to keep everything consolidated, especially if you have a big family and multiple streams that are needing to come together, right? So that's one of the things that I teach. I have a course called DPO Pro, the Ultimate Photo Organizing Masterclass. It's been my bestseller now for, 7 years. 7 years in a row. I'll link to that below as well. It's just such a fun field. And again, if you're into the whole digital organizing scene, it's such a budding field that there's a lot of opportunity in. So another thing to check out if you're into that. One of the things that I've learned though is that a lot of pros have trouble prioritizing their own collections, as it always is, right? But I refuse to be that person. I do not want to be a photo organizer with a photo mess on my hands. So I make it a priority every month to keep my own photos organized. And yes, it's tricky, but it kind of goes back to what I was saying before of the whole 80-20 rule of you just have to have your own systems for your own life set up as well, not just for your clients, right? It is definitely possible to handle your own stuff as well. You just have to treat yourself as you would a client, right? And besides that, I've made a commitment to my daughter. I do not want to leave behind a mess. I want to make sure that I organize 100% of the photos that I keep each month, and the stories are kept with them so that everybody knows who's in a photo, everybody knows why I kept it, and all the metadata is there and all of that. So I love being proactive about that and taking care of my own stories and making sure those are passed on. And that also sort of gels with my attitude towards Swedish death cleaning. I have several articles on that, and me being the Swedish organizer, you can imagine I get quite a few requests on that topic as well. So yeah, it lets me relate to what my students are going through when I handle my own stuff, and it's just a win-win all around. So for the stats, in October I took 646 photos, and more than half were deleted. So I deleted 389 of those, and those were mostly screenshots, accidental clicks, like when I wake up in the morning and I'm trying to turn off the alarm, there's at least like 5 photos before I get the right button. So snaps like that don't belong in my collection, anything duplicate, anything I don't need, I got rid of that first, and then I did 2 rounds of culling. So my net gain was 257 new photos, and the majority of those, almost 200 of those, were from a business photo shoot of myself that I needed. So I decided to keep a lot of those, and normally I might not have kept that many, but this time I needed that variety, so I did that. And I did get to all of those, and I organized them using that pro method that I teach in DPO Pro. DPO, for those of you who don't know, stands for Digital Photo Organizing. So that is what we sort of in the industry just call that niche for short, DPO. I also have a method of organizing photos called PBO. I have some more videos on my YouTube channel about that, and that is basically a more creative way. Instead of the pro method, it's more of a DIY method of organizing your photos, and that's something that I often use for scanned photos and heritage photos. So I had a couple of those, and I was able to sort of mix and match my approaches there. And again, that's something that I'm very passionate about. I just think it's so important to keep the stories with the photos, so I put quite a lot of effort into that. All of my photos are managed in Lightroom Classic at this point. I was a photographer for a hot minute back in the early 2000s, and I used to do, you know, photo shoots where we shot directly into Lightroom, and so I've just sort of kept that workflow that I had back then. Back then I had to separate out client photos from my own photos in one catalog. Nowadays it's my business photos versus my personal photos, you know, but it's basically the same workflow. It's really important to have both of those in the same archive for me, because my business is such a personal brand that it wouldn't make sense to space them out and separate them. So I do keep them all in the same catalog. They just go hand in hand, you know. And obviously it's important to stay organized, so I have a bunch of different methods for maintaining that collection and making sure that I stay on top of what's what. So including smart collections, keyword vocabulary that's very organized, yeah, and just a solid metadata and tags and all of that. So yeah, it's a really nice way. It's just the method I've been used to using, but I obviously also teach different methods. I also teach Apple Photos, Photo Mechanic, and a couple of other softwares. So not that you always have to use what I use. It's just, I just want to share what I use and how I use it, so that you might, you know, consider if it's something for you. But yeah, we have a free, if you're interested in this topic at all, we have a free workshop called DPO Flow. DPO, now you know, stands for Digital Photo Organizing, and flow is basically the workflow, right? So I have that for you at no charge if you're interested. There's a preview on my YouTube channel, and then over on my Academy you can sign up to watch the full one for free. And that kind of shows you a couple different workflows for different scenarios, including Apple Photos, like I said, Photo Mechanic, Adobe Lightroom. I believe we have Google Photos, Amazon, and a bunch of other ones in there as well. We do that every year in July, so we have a couple of years worth if you're interested. All right, so now for something a little bit more personal. How many steps I walked in October 2023. So for many, many years, obviously I've struggled with getting in enough steps per day. And so I've put a lot of focus on sorting that out for myself and figuring out how to love exercise. It's still not something that I love, but I'm getting better at it. So the goal I set for 2023 was to complete 5,000 steps per day consistently. And so far, it's been going pretty well. And this is something, obviously, when you have a desk job like me, you have to be mindful of. I've noticed the difference, though, in my environment, right? And this is just a very interesting point to consider, because your environment really, really shapes who you are. So I've noticed that when I'm home in Sweden, in my hometown, it's just a no-brainer. I walk everywhere. I'm in a rural area, you know, with my house there. There's very little traffic, there's fresh air, there's lots of trails. Getting around is easy, and just putting in enough steps, it just happens. You don't even have to think about it, you know. When we were backpacking throughout Europe, we easily put in 20,000 steps a day. We didn't have to think about it. It just happened. And then, of course, we were lugging our stuff everywhere too, our bags. So that was just extra strength training up and down those stairs in the old buildings. There's never any elevators. So, you know, it was just easy there. In our Chicago suburb, it is a lot harder. They don't make it easy for us. There is so much traffic. There's no sidewalks in my community, actually. There's a few trails, but you kind of have to get to them first. You know, crosswalks aren't necessarily as safe. You just have to be very mindful of traffic and where you go. And it's funny because when you compare the stats and you think about the environment, it's just such a drastic difference in lifestyle. Obviously, Chicago, you know, we drive a lot there, so I just take fewer steps on just on the regular day overall. And that's obviously based on where I live. I'm in a suburb over there. So at one point we had rented an apartment in New York where my husband works, and New York is where you walk. So putting away 5,000 steps a day over there was easy, but in Chicago it's not that easy. And even where I am here today, I'm in India at the moment, it's just not easy at all. So every day, if I'm in Chicago, I have noticed that I have to be on point. I have to make it a point to get out and actually consciously make the effort. Whereas if I'm in Europe, it's just a lot easier. I don't have to think about it much. So getting to the stats, in October, I took 123,660 steps. And that is on average about 4,000 steps per day. Now, bear in mind, there were a couple of times where I forgot my phone and I used the Pacer app on my phone to measure my steps. So like if my phone is in my bag or if I forget to bring my phone, then I have nothing to measure with. So that was, a couple of mistakes here and there that might have skewed the results. And we also had quite a few, like I said, travel days where we just weren't walking as much, or maybe it was rainy and we didn't go out as much. So, I'm still not at that goal, but it is still light years from where I was a couple of years ago. So I have to take the win. It's about incremental progress over time. And I think that I am so far from where I was just 3-4 years ago that I can't possibly be mad at myself. I still need to do a bit more work to be consistently crossing 5,000, but 4,000 isn't all that bad still, average. So I'm not satisfied, but I'm kind of satisfied with it. And also something that I always think about is that, and this goes for any goal setting, is that you always want to identify what the biggest obstacle is that's in front of you. And that's how you kind of know what you're up against, and that just makes it a lot easier to overcome it, right? So if I think about my environment in Chicago and what is the biggest obstacle between me and 5,000 steps a day, I have to say it's by far the weather. It is so unpredictable, and oftentimes it's just cold and wet and snowy, and I don't like that necessarily, and that just makes it a lot harder for me to get out. So what then can I do about that, right? I've been thinking about that. How can I solve that issue without having to drive to the gym every day? We do have a lifetime membership. Shout out to Lifetime and their wonderful staff over there. But, I'm not always going to be in the mood or have the time to go to the gym. So what is the solution? How can I get around this whole thing? So I've come to the conclusion that I'm going to try and implement a home gym area. We have a finished basement, and I think I can make a really nice little gym down there for me. And that way, if I'm snowed in or if something happens, then I don't have to worry about it. I can actually just go down there and take care of a couple steps. Maybe I'll put a small treadmill in there or something, so that I can work that out and not have any excuses. You kind of have to know yourself really well when you're setting goals. You kind of have to see, like, where am I going to go wrong, and kind of anticipate where you might cheat a little bit, and then kind of nip that in the bud. So that's what I'm doing. So eventually you will probably get to see my home gym area. I'm going to try and work on that in December so that I can start the new year fresh. So we'll see how that goes. I think that'll be nice. It'll be interesting to see if that solves the problem or not, but let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. All right, on to the next category, which is home cooked meals. Now, I have set a goal for this year to cook at least 75% of our meals at home. This month, I got to 72.5%. So close, but not all the way. Good, but not great. The thing that threw me off was our travel days. we had many travel days and I just had no choice but to eat out on those days. I couldn't do it. And so you can't really help that much. So I have to be satisfied with that. That's still also light years from where we were a couple years ago. I'm not a fan of cooking. I haven't been a fan of cooking throughout my life for various reasons. And we also have very different taste buds in our household. We have different nutritional requirements. So it's just very hard to come to a consensus, basically, on what the menu should be. I do, try to meal plan the best I can, but it is a little bit trickier. So over time, it's just been so much easier for us to use Grubhub, but obviously that's an expense that I no longer want to necessarily carry every day. Organic vegan food, and that can get expensive. I don't want to keep ordering out. I want to learn how to cook better and just take care of a lot of that at home. That being said, maybe I want to even outsource that at some point somehow. But for now, I definitely just want to cut down on the number of meals we eat outside and just be better about eating at home. Breakfast is always easy and fun for me. We get a lot of good stuff at Trader Joe's over in our neighborhood. They have such good oatmeal that we've found. And I have to give a shout out to Almond Cow. I love my Almond Cow. They're not sponsoring this or anything. I just love it. It's the best thing I've purchased in my kitchen by far. So in just a few minutes, I can make fresh almond milk, cashew milk, and I absolutely love it. It's been a game changer. And something that I've done now in the past few weeks is to actually get up earlier and cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. And that way I'm sort of set for the day. That's been working out really, really well. I'm a lot more fresh and energized in the morning. In fact, I redid my entire schedule. I wrote a post on that too. I'll link that below as well. And that's been working out really, really nicely, because what happened in the past is that I would make breakfast and then I would go work, have a bunch of calls, and then come down and be hungry for lunch. And then I would have to cook, and get that done, and then manage to eat in the time I had available. And sometimes I just didn't have that long until my next meeting. And so it was just a lot easier to order, and I just don't want to do that. So yeah, it's been nice to actually get up and get ahead of it and come down and have it be ready, basically. It's worked out so well in the past few days and weeks that I think I'm just going to keep doing that. So it's all thanks to my newly updated schedule. I redid my schedule to get up earlier in the morning and go to bed earlier at night. So yeah, so far so good. And that's honestly what's been able to keep me on track here. So I have to be okay with that result. Close enough, I'd say. All right, next section that I want to highlight is audiobooks. So a goal I've had for this year is to get one new audiobook per month and really go deep into it and really reflect on it and pull out every single nugget I can from it and really squeeze it for all the information that it has and distill that somehow in writing or in a takeaway. And this month I read Clockwork, or listened to, I should say, Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz. It was a good book. I picked it up because, it's systems and operations, and that's what I do. So I thought, well, I should know the contents of that one. Clients have referred to it once or twice, and I kind of want to know what it's about. So that's what I picked for this month, and I used Audible for that. I love my Audible membership because once, I'm out walking or whatever, then I can just put that book on and just kind of habit stack some of that together and make that work. And that's been really fun. I love reading, but it's just so convenient to listen when you're out and about. So that's what I did. the biggest takeaway that I had from that book was that we definitely need some sort of overhaul in our current culture, especially here in the US. Europe is slightly different. It's not as work-centric as it is in the US, but I just don't want anybody to be that overworked that you have to sleep at the office under a table. Like it just isn't healthy. We need to have boundaries, and I really want to be a force for good when it comes to this area. You know, I think a lot of businesses have to realize that we just can't do good work when we're that stretched, when we don't feel good. I wish a lot more businesses would ease up on that. That kind of pressure just isn't going to benefit anyone. And, you know, studies have shown that the happier people are, the better work they do. I mean, Scandinavia in particular is fairly good at that, right? So I come from that culture, and I just feel like we all need to take a good hard look at what's going on and hopefully rework that a little bit. I will do my part for sure in trying to change that, and I hope you do your part, because we really need a systems overhaul on that. That's for sure. Another thing that I want to talk about is meaningful conversations. That's another goal I have for this year. I just place a very high value on personal connections. They often lead to just really great conversations, which then often leads to some sort of action or outcome. And so I've set a goal for myself to have 3 great conversations at least per month with whomever. The chats don't have to be about business at all. They can be about anything. In fact, I just had a wonderful call with a colleague that I'm going to count for this month. Basically, I don't want to get complacent in sort of taking relationships for granted. I really appreciate all my friends and colleagues and clients and just, you know, inspirations. And I just want to make sure that I stay in touch with people, you know, and that I'm a good friend. And I don't want to be that person that you haven't heard from in years and years. It just forces me kind of to stay on top of all my relationships and manage them actively. Not easy to do, right? But one can try. So yeah. And apart from that, I've launched a new networking effort. So this month I started something I called Fika with Caroline. Fika, if you don't know what it is, it's a Swedish tradition. It's kind of like afternoon tea, where you have a little snack and a beverage, usually hot coffee or tea. I'm a tea drinker, so that's my beverage of choice. And what I have done is basically open up 3 slots on my calendar to Zoom with email subscribers. I have, you know, a couple thousand people on my email list, and I don't know many of them. And so I just thought it'd be super fun to just say, hey, you want to get to know each other a little bit better? No strings attached. Let's jump on a call. And I actually got the idea from my colleague, Maki. She has her own version of this going on. So, you know, she was a great source of inspiration for me. I checked with her, and she actually sells this as a strategy. So I got the idea from her, and I'll post a link to her under this video. So yeah, that's been going really great, and I've had some really good conversations as a result of it with people I probably wouldn't necessarily have gotten a chance to talk to otherwise. So that's been fun, and that's something now that I'm planning to do moving forward, just for my email subscribers. So, you know, if you want to have a little chat, make sure you subscribe to my email over at theswedishorganizer.com. I caught up with my good friend Connie this past month. We got to know each other many years ago. I worked for her. She was like a client for a little bit, and then she's still now a student in my course, so that was great. I also caught up with Ruth, who's a good friend of mine, a fellow coach, and Christy, another colleague of mine. Just all really wonderful people, and yeah, it was nice to just see what they've been up to. We hadn't connected in a while, you know, and yeah, it's just nice sometimes to not have an agenda at all and just check in on people and say, hey, what are you up to? So I look forward to continuing that, not just with friends, but also with email subscribers and other people. And then I want to talk about success that I celebrated this past month. October 2023 was a very successful month, I have to say. It felt really nice. And one of the reasons in particular was that a good friend of mine, fellow coach Claudine, she invited me to participate in her new course called The Undeniable Laws of Winning. And it was just fabulous. So she's a mindset coach, and it's just wonderful at what she does. She really has a great way of calling you on your BS and making you see a different perspective on your core beliefs. And besides that, you know, anybody who is a high achiever, anybody who's driven, creatives especially, we're very bad at celebrating our success. We tend to sort of move on to the next goal very, very quickly and not acknowledge what we just did, what we just accomplished. So I just wanted to have this in my productivity report as a moment to pause and to be able to actually acknowledge what I've just done. I want to make sure I do that on a regular basis because it's just so easy to forget otherwise. So again, reflection is a big part of my CEO routine. And in fact, one of my mentors, who is no longer with us, one of the things he told me was that you have to stop, you have to pause and look back and just see how far you just have come, you know, because you can't let those moments pass you by. That's when you realize just how much you've done. And that's what, you know, makes you proud of yourself. And I really took that to heart because we really can't gloss over all the accomplishments that we make, you know, and pretend like they were easy. They were not easy. It took a lot to get to this place, you know, and acknowledging that is just massively helpful. So I really want to make sure that we do that. So yeah, I just want to give a big shout out to Claudine. Thank you very much for your generosity in letting me participate. I will link her course underneath. It's absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend that you check it out. I spotted many leaks of energy in my own life that I hadn't noticed. And I'm sort of plugging those holes back up now. So I feel like 2024 is just going to be rock solid, and it's a lot due to that. So I'm going to give regular shout outs to people who I think deserve it, and she's going to be the first one. And of course, I got a shout out to myself as well for actually putting this report out into the world. It has not been an easy decade to get to this point, but I feel like it's time. And yeah, I want to pause here and make sure I acknowledge how far I've come on that. And I encourage you to do the same because you have come really far. You just have to notice it. So yeah, that is pretty much it for my productivity report this time around. I have a little bit more over in the article, including a look at my favorite products, services, tools, and techniques, you know, things that I've enjoyed using that I would recommend to others. And they might be a good fit for you, so I recommend that you check them out. I am an affiliate for a lot of those products and resources. Some of them are my own, some of them are just affiliate relationships, but they're all things that I stand behind and would use regardless. So that's another thing that, you know, I can say about that. I also have my favorite tea listed out there. This month I enjoyed one of my favorites, Harney & Sons Jasmine Dragon Pearls. I just thought, me being such a tea fanatic, and with the launch of Fika with Caroline, of course, I should give recommendations on my favorite teas. Why not? let's just make this fun, right? It doesn't have to be so serious. We don't have to do everything just in one specific way. I want to infuse a little bit of personality, with this, so that you get to know me and I get to know you, and so that we can be authentic and transparent with each other. That's the theme of this whole thing. And tea is a big part of my life, so that's what you're going to get. I hope you enjoyed this look at October 2023 in my world. I will be back next month again with November's report. It's going to be interesting, so I think you'll enjoy it. So stay tuned for that, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.